Welcome to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I'm Richard Dugan, your host. You know, we're coming to the end of 2023, and this program brings you new paradigms for a new world, along with choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. I'm curious as to how many of your dreams have come true in 2023. What dreams do you have for 2024? Well, today I think we're going to discuss that a little bit. Very special guest returning. We've had him on. It's been a while, 5 years, I think, since the last time, 6 years maybe, since we've had him on the program. I'll introduce him in just a moment, but I wanted to let you know that we're here on Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Mondays at 1 a.m., and then Wednesdays at 9 a.m. We're also here Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. following the news, and we are so excited to have that opportunity that will continue on into January 2024, where we have interviews that have been put up on the podcast and videocast site, yes, but have not been heard on the radio yet. And so I'm talking probably 150 interviews that have been waiting for the light of airwave daylight, shall we say. And I'm very excited about that. We podcast our programs at those times as well at richarddugan.com. And as I mentioned, the podcasts are on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, Blueberry, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and many other locations. We're also on YouTube, as I said, where you can watch these conversations. I hope that you will. I hope you'll also subscribe and at the very least select notification, click notification so that when a new program, a new conversation is posted, you will know about it and you can go and you can listen in on the conversation. We also ask if you can support the work that we are doing financially. As always, we can use all the help we can get. We greatly appreciate those who have helped. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And to those who will help, again, a thank you, thank you, thank you. We have a PayPal account. It's there for your security as well as ours. And just put in my email address of richard@richarddugan.com, and boom, that support will come our way. We will use it in the most efficient and effective way to keep these programs moving forward, taking care of the web hosting services. SoundCloud charges us an annual fee. And we take care of that in January and a few other ancillary costs. But I have made the promise to you. I will repeat it. I will never, ever say that if you don't support us, this program goes away. If this program goes away, that's on me, okay? So if you can support us, and I learned that lesson from religious broadcasting that I was in for 15 years. That is shameful when they do that. If you don't support our work, we won't be able to continue this ministry. Well, then don't continue the ministry. Apparently, that's not God's plan for you. Go do something else. I don't know. It's your choice. But we won't play that. We won't play those games. However, we will ask you to participate in the decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, where we're heading into the believe it or not, it is the 25th year of the 2020s, because I count 2020 as the first year, the year of perfect vision in the decade of perfect vision, where we ask you to go within and listen to that still small voice. We'll talk a little bit about that with our very special guest, who I'm very excited to have back with us. He's a doctor of chemical engineering, a Ph.D., I should say, of chemical engineering, who's been pursuing his interest in astrology in general, and Vedic astrology in particular since I was 6 years old, folks, 1966. His name, I'm so glad to have him back with us, especially as we're wrapping up 2023. Jagdish Maheshri, thank you for joining us here on the program.
Thank you, Richard.
And I believe I mispronounced your last name. That's Maheshri.
Maheshri, right.
Maheshri. Thank you for being with us. It's really a pleasure. Vedic astrology has been an interest of mine ever since I was introduced to it probably 20 years ago through another gentleman we've had on the program. I believe he's gone into retirement, though. And so it's nice to have you with us to educate and edify us, first of all, on what Vedic astrology, let's put it this way, is and isn't.
Vedic astrology is based on sidereal zodiac, as opposed to the Western zodiac, which is tropical zodiac. And that's the major difference. So there is a shift in zodiac about 24 degrees at this point in time. Every 72 years, a shift increases by 1 degree. So that's the way basically it's a very similar to Western astrology, but the houses might be a bit different, and the house division that you apply might be different. And by the way, I'm contemporary Vedic astrologer. So the contemporary Vedic astrologers include Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, which I consider them as modern planets. They have a very special influence. I mean, since the Uranus was discovered, which is about the time the US was born, so to speak, 1776, that's when Uranus was discovered. And since then, we evolved at such a rapid rate, and it's reflected in the discovery of the modern planets since 1776.
Now, you use a particular model, if you will, or technique, which I do want to talk about, but I'm curious as to the predictive qualities of astrology in general and how you present that from the Vedic astrological perspective.
Yeah, I present that using the characteristics of the zodiac sign where the planets fall in for the time of prediction. And it's also the characteristics of the planets. Now, there are two parts. I predict for individual, and I predict as a collective predictions. Collective meaning, the world events and other collective events, so to speak. And so that's one is the mundane astrology, which is collective, and then the individual, like natal chart reading, that's the individual reading. And I do both. My major interest in the collective way is because I see, since it's been like 20 years, I see we are heading towards a very different world in another 20, 30 years, where norms will be very different. And we have been seeing that in the last 6, 7 years. Their norms are constantly changing, and eventually we become more human as a person, and we understand how this world, our understanding of this world is tremendously evolved by then. That's how I view it, and that's why I have a special interest in mundane astrology. And of course, I do the individual astrology, which also allows any individual to know more about himself, or how to go about discovering yourself in a positive way.
So when we talk about this, and I guess let's for the moment focus on the natal chart, which is an individual chart. What information do you require for to be able to, shall we say, create the chart for an individual?
Date, which is a birth date, which is time, and the place. That's all I need.
Okay. And you say that Vedic astrology is shifted from Western astrology, we'll use those terms, by what, by 24 degrees, is that right?
Yeah, 24 degrees and 3 seconds, 3 minutes, as I speak. And every 72 years, it shifts by 1 degree, which is 60 minutes. So every year is like 50 seconds, which is, per minute. It shifts by 50 seconds. It takes about 26,000 years for them to come together. It just
Where are we right now as far as you are able to tell in terms of them coming together? Because it sounds like they're getting further and further apart.
right. They
The
will
last
be
I heard, it was
further
23.
apart.
Yeah.
Yes, they will be further apart. And when you go, so right now it's 26 degrees, 24 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
And so at some point it will be 180 degrees. They're exactly farthest apart. And then they come back again. So come back to 360, which is the same as zero, because it's a circle. So 180 degrees farthest apart. I think it will take another 25,000 years before they come together.
Mm. So we got to have a while to wait there.
Yeah. Well,
Is I want to get into one aspect of this if we can. And again, I didn't ask you about this when we set the interview up, but you're always so well prepared that you probably have this information at hand. I mean, and you have mentioned already that, again, in about 10, 15 years, the world as we know it is not even going to exist, that we will be moving into a new, shall we call it a new era for humanity. That's kind of what I'm gathering from what I'm hearing from other people in other areas. First of all, do you have a chart? And I guess how do you base this on, say, a specific country? The United States, there's still questioning as to the actual birth date. We say July 4th
right.
here in America.
Right.
But at the same time, the Declaration of Independence actually was not ratified until after July
Right.
4th. And
Right.
so forth and so on. So there are all these, and then of course there are other countries who,
Sure.
they came into being. For example, India,
Right.
which am I correct? That's where you're from, or is it Pakistan?
No, India. I was born in India.
Mm-hmm. And it was 1947. And I know there was a particular date involved. Israel, the same way, and so on and so on and so on. First of all, how do you make the determination as to as you say, you need a place, a time, and a date
Right.
for, say, a country?
No, for a country, I don't use date, time, and place.
Okay.
Okay, that's a mundane astrology. Now, in that case, Earth is nothing but the land. It doesn't change. It stays there. It's part of that Earth. So it has a history. It changes. Like US was the land before 1776. There were people living here.
Mm-hmm.
Not like, it's just suddenly, born. It's like, and so, but the transformation of the land is reflected in the discovery of a planet. For example, United States, Uranus is the planet of the country, because what happens, Uranus is unconventional. If you see that, it's like a new world is born around 1776, where people from other part of the world come here and they create a new world. And that's what Uranus is.
Mm.
Uranus is about the drastic changes in the living environment brought by the intelligence of the human being. That's, so the Uranus loves people of different cultural background, loves it. That's by definition. That's the Uranus. Now, I'm not saying the other planets don't influence this planet at the same time. Sure, they do. Mm-hmm. And the counterpart of that planet is the Saturn. So it's really the country, 90% Uranus and 10% Saturn, if you will, or maybe 85-15, but it's mostly Uranus. So all these modern changes, for example, all the scientific discoveries come under Uranus. It's a crazy scientist. That's how they call Uranus. Uranus is a crazy planet, brilliant, but unconventional. So he doesn't like the orthodox way of living. It doesn't like, oh, we used to be doing certain way, and now we don't, and we can't change. Uranus loves change. That's by definition, Uranus loves change. And so you can see the changes here. So that's why in this country, there's constant transformation. I mean, compared to other countries in the world. And Uranus loves to lead, loves to boast, loves to. And another quality of Uranus is the transformation that happens. It's interestingly, that's the way it is, it's painful. It's a violence, it has to be there as a part of that nature. It's a violence, and then it's a transformation, and the violence and transformation. That's how it goes. And so that's the nature of the Uranus. But there are good qualities of Uranus. But every planet has a challenging qualities and good qualities, so to speak. So, but this is Uranus. This is how and when I trace that, now, and this, speaking of the Uranus, is going to change the sign very soon in the May, end of May, 2024. And you will see that the whole change here, that's going to affect the banking industries, money, the financial markets all around the world, because this is the country which leads the financial markets of the world. And so we are going to be, but following 7 years, would be a very different era. What we saw that the last 7 years was most of the politics, in the Uranus way. It's a Now it's going to be but this Uranus is going to go into the next sign, which is Taurus, on the end of May. But then it's going to, because of the retrograde motion, comes back in Aries on this mid-December, December 16th. And then it stays in Aries for about 4 months, like March 16th, up to 2025. So it's like, but that shift, it causes the transformation, changes, quick back and forth change. So 2024 is going to see a lot of changes in the world of politics, in the world financial market. And that's the theme going to be for 2024 for the United States.
Now, Vedic astrology is not something that can predict, like, okay, who's going to be the next president at the 2024 election? It's not that specific. That's not what it's about. And this is kind of the way I've observed Vedic astrology, Jagdish. It's like a map, a roadmap. And what it shows along the way, let's say I'm on the West Coast, of course, literally, here in Santa Barbara, and I want to go to New York, but I'm going to drive because I like seeing the scenery. I like meeting people, that kind of thing. But along the way on this map, this Vedic astrological map, it shows me that when I get into Nevada, I'm going to hit some potentially heavy rain. And so I may want to prepare for that. I may want to delay the departure. I may want to depart or even earlier to avoid this storm. Or if I'm not going to do either, I better be prepared to drive more cautiously, take the more, what's the word, offensive driving as opposed to defensive, and so forth. Then when I get maybe into Kansas, it's going to be heavy winds, not necessarily tornadoes, but you never know. Once again, may want to delay, may want to hurry up, may want to say, okay, if I'm going to go and I'm going to meet that particular situation, here's what I need to do to protect myself, to keep myself safer in that respect, and so on and so on. So it tells me, here are the conditions that I'm going to meet as I travel along this road. But it's like you're being told, or you're being given this information, and it's all up to you what you do with it. You can ignore it altogether and then, see where that gets you, or you can protect yourself. Are there methods within the Vedic astrological philosophy, shall we say? I know it's a science, but that where there are things we can either do or wear or what have you that will help to not necessarily protect us, like from the rain or the wind, but that can maybe keep us calm and level-headed, that kind of thing. I wear what is called a kavach. that I received from my other dear friend, Vedic Astrology friend, David Hawthorne, that has supposedly certain coding on it, numbers based upon my Vedic astrological chart. Also, there's been the recommendation of certain gems one can have on one's person, certain colors that one should wear, and so on and so forth. Is that part of what you teach as well in terms of helping to maybe help the benevolent, shall we say, aspects, and maybe help to I don't know, minimize the malefic aspects or effects?
Yes. Yes. Short answer is yes.
Please explain.
Yeah. Okay. There are two things for any individual, any given chart. It consists of two major things. One is what I call destiny. Another one is your efforts. It's nothing is solid, and that changes from, that combination could be 10% destiny and 90% effort, or vice versa. So based on that chart, if the person is what I consider spiritually evolved, it's like, say, and which is very rare, but suppose if there's a person spiritually evolved, he wouldn't need the James or anything, because he sees the world with the total clarity. But we are not perfect person like that. So we don't see that. Now, so we are at a different level in terms of understanding the world. The world is illusionary because we don't allow ourselves to see the way the world is. We have so much prejudices, we have so much conditioning, and we always see through the prism of those prejudices. And so we never see the clearly. And in order to see the clearly, that's where the chart comes in the picture. And you can see that where the person is and how can he go forward. So it depends upon what he is. Everyone has a different need at that point in time, depend on the chart. And based on that, I prescribe, or so to speak, I suggest or I advise what would be the best for that person. But it's not the same for everybody. Everyone is a different box, completely unique. In my opinion, there is no single person in this world is worse or better than any other person in the world. So in other words, there is some uniqueness in the person that no one has it. And my challenge is to figure that out and let that person know. And so that's where, in order to answer you, what you should be doing from when you go from West Coast to New York, it depends upon where you are in terms of what kind of impulses you're going to get on your way. That will dictate your the journey. And each one is going to have a different journey.
So even though Vedic astrology is, as it's been described to me, a science, is that correct?
Well, it's inferential science. I wouldn't say it's a hard science like physics and chemistry. No.
Okay.
It's like more like economics or social sciences.
Okay.
It all depends upon how you interpret the things.
So it's really based a lot on the choices that we make along the way.
We make the choices we make, and how do we go about making better choices is based on how clearly we see the world. And the whole idea is to go back to the basic of how do I go about seeing the clear world. Then the action born out of that becomes a positive action in order for us to go wherever we want to go. So we really don't have to worry about the outcome. We have to worry about the clarity, and the action, the outcome follows automatically.
Yeah. Jagdish, Maheshri is my guest, and he's here on the program to talk to us here about Vedic astrology and what it's all about, and maybe we'll get a little bit more information in regards to as he's already described for us a bit of 2024. Which, quite honestly, when you talk about change, when you talk about the impending changes in 2024, I'm actually excited by it. There's a wonderful line I quote it quite often on this program from John Denver, one of his songs. He says, "Changes uh, uh, somehow excite me. Still, I have to smile. It turns me on to think of growing old." Now, I don't necessarily claim to have an insight on the world as it is. However, I loved what one gentleman who I had on the program said about choices that we were just alluding to. And of course, you've heard this phrase before, I'm sure, that we are where we are because of all the choices that we've made up to this point. I even joke about how, that a lot of the choices I made as a little kid, 7, 8, 9 years old, have brought me here talking with you, Jagdish. And I said that means that all of the choices that we make from this point forward will place us wherever it is that we will be down the road, maybe a year, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is. And he says, well, yes, that is true. However, and he added this proviso, which I could not agree with more. Your choices, and I think this is where the Vedic astrology chart comes in handy. Your choices for the future are based upon your perception of what you think the future will be. So if you think Armageddon's coming, you're probably a prepper. You may be having a hole in the ground somewhere where you've got all your stores, which is fine. There's no judgment there.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those. My glass is half full. I just would like to know what it's full of, because it may be something really good, tasty to drink. But be that as it may, I consider myself very optimistic. For the most part, most of my life, I've been that way. Have I had my down times? We all do. Yes, I have. But I see maybe not a bright and shining, sparkling new world like the Jetsons of the 60s cartoon, but at least I see that we're going to get through this like we've always gotten through other, let's just say, natural disasters like earthquakes and hurricanes and tornadoes and tsunamis, and the list goes on. And we're still here. Yes, we've lost a lot of lives, but you know what? That's the natural order of things on this planet, in this world. That, we're born, we live our lives, and then we depart. Talk to us a little bit about how the energetic aspects of our perception of the future and the impact it has on the choices that we make affect the chart. That let's say today I said, Jagdish, I want you to do my chart. Okay. Now, first of all, how far out do you go? How many months or years do you go for someone's chart?
Well, one is the overview part of the chart, which I kind of sketch for that person's, with the focus that what's the essence of the personality of this person's, what's the really, if you want to put it in a more, blindly, or what's the purpose? Why am I here on this earth?
Mm-hmm.
What's my purpose? It's more philosophical. But if you understand that part, it's a little bit, maybe a little difficult to digest. But once you understand that part, then other thing is just the filling up the details. And so the details is like this. When I'm driving, I see the road in front of me, which is maybe half a mile, depends upon my, the eyesight or whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know exactly 10 miles away, exactly what's happening. I don't know that. I see that. So what I see clearly is about 12 to 18 months. I will see, because so many things happen. There are transits happening, there are signs changing, planets are going from one sign to other. My dasha cycles are different, which are in Vedic astrology very important. And so I have to consider all of those, and they are constantly changing, and I cannot see that very clearly unless the person poses me a specific question on this year during this time. What would then I can go back and check it. So that's then I take my microscope there or a lens there and look at. But there are so many things to check. Unless, so I give an overview where you're headed in your life and what's the whole idea behind it, and then you fill out your details based on your experiences. That's fine. That's probably the best way to live. But if you want a specific, you have going through a specific, very important crisis, and you need some help, what to do, and then I can suggest a few things.
Yeah.
And so that's based on using my lens and going there and see. So those are the things.
It's interesting too that now years ago I used to frequent maybe once a month at the most, mediums, psychics, those who have connection with that kind of information. And I was going there not because they had the answers and that I needed to get that from them. It was more, I need a little confirmation. I mean, I think I know what it is that I need to do here and so forth and so on. But I need a little confirmation from the outside world, so to speak, sort of as a nudge saying, you're on the right track. While I was training myself to trust my intuition. Can you share with us your perspective as a Vedic astrologer, the importance of listening to and following that still small voice, our intuition, or some people would just call it a gut feeling, that kind of thing? Can you talk to us about that?
Absolutely. This is very important question, and I love this question. Everyone has, it may be in the dormant state, or maybe it's a partially dormant and partially developed state. Everyone has that power. Everyone, absolutely everyone has power. Now the question is, how, it's like, what stage we are in our life. If we have a lot of, if we are heavily conditioned in early part of your life, then this intuitive part doesn't develop as much. And then what happens is, but we are looking for something like a teddy bear to hang on to. And so we go we start believing in certain, we shouldn't be, it's not the right impulse we are following it. We're following the impulse based on our conditioning. And so it may take in a wrong direction. Okay. So if you're looking for confirmation, that's the best way to do it. So if you confirm it, that's fine. If you don't confirm it, okay, let it go. That's okay. But what I'm trying to say is, it's really how conditioned we are in our life. If we see that, it will help us to go. Then you can go to any psychic or any medium, and then you can get it confirmed. But if we are already bogged down with our conditioning, then we are looking for a specific confirmation, and that, in my opinion, would not help.
Well, I will tell you that that's one of the things, as you heard me mention at the front end of the program, about spending time during the decade of perfect vision, because I believe that the only place where we get perfect insight is by going within, by listening to that still small voice. And I have, like many folks, worked to train myself to make it sort of a second nature kind of thing, where I don't have to ask the question. The voice, the divine, if you will, already knows the question. All I have to do is, as one of my guests said, especially when it came to listening for the voice of my father, my late father, they said, you need to listen faster. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, see, they already know the question. All right. And while you're asking the question, they're giving you the answer. So You need to listen faster. And I
Yeah.
thought, okay, I'll work on that. Um, and that's something that I'm not going to say that I've perfected by any means, because there's always room for improvement. But at the same time, it's gratifying. I heard the voice of my sister following her passing a couple of years ago, almost 2 years ago. I never really heard the voice of my father. However, I got impressions. I knew they were from him. And there were times when I would sit and I would be talking out loud to myself. Jagdish, I don't know if you do that or not, but I was talking out loud to myself very fluidly, no ahs, ums or anything. My father was really good about not having that in his voice. And it's like, where did that come from? And I'm thinking,
Exactly.
oh, thanks, Dad. I appreciate that. Using me, I appreciate that. Um, and it's lovely to have that continued connection with him. Um, my father, of course, was cremated, and his ashes were divided amongst the children. And I still have his ashes, although the other kids, at least as far as I know, they've scattered his. And I'm here in California, and my dad, I don't know where to scatter them. So
Mm.
I had this beautiful urn made by a glass blower here in Santa Barbara, Saul Alcaraz. And oh, it's magnificent. And I've placed my father's remains in there and sealed it. And I have this beautiful cross that's on top of it, just as to honor him.
Yeah.
And I don't know how long I'll keep it. All I know is right now it's important for
Yeah.
me to do so.
It
Um,
sounds like you are intuitively highly developed person.
well, I appreciate that. I'd like to think so. I have my moments when I question that, But then again, as I said, we all have those moments. We're all working. You have been studying and providing these Vedic astrology readings to folks since as early, probably not quite that early, but as early as 1966. As I said before, when I was 6 years old, you were there. I'm curious if I may ask, and again, if you don't have it, that's fine. We can certainly maybe have another program where we can touch on this. I know you did a chart for me. A matter of fact, I still have the audio
Oh,
of it. I think it was 2013, I think was when you did that first reading for me.
uh,
And I go back and I listen to it every once in a while, but again, I take into consideration, okay, listening to it here in 2020, that's 10 years ago. Things have changed. I've made different choices. I've done this, done that, done the other. Life has happened in this fashion, that fashion, and so forth. So for someone to come to you 10 years later and say, "Hey, how has my chart changed?" Do you have the information going back? How far back that where if someone wanted to know, "Hey, I'm trying to remember what you told me back in 2013 about this, that, or the other thing," to sort of take a look at your accuracy. Have you done that kind of thing? And I'm
well,
curious how important that is in this respect.
that's very important. Okay, now one of the tests, I mean, I haven't, quantitatively done that very well. But to me, the one of the tests is my clients when they keep coming back. They wouldn't be keep coming back if they don't find the value in it.
Hmm.
So the fact that they keep coming back, and I don't, I hate to boast myself, but I have Google reviews on my website. I mean, not my website, but if you go on Google and
Hmm.
search my website, and then you see
Right.
the Google reviews, they reflect their experiences with me, and uh, I'm not saying I'm getting all the clients I'm giving, but most of them are very they're looking at some of them. They look at general guideline is great, and it helped me tremendously to navigate through my life. And some of them are, my gosh, you were right, accurate, like this date and this time and all this thing. So that is the individual thing, each how people view it. But to me, the fact that they keep coming back is that tells me that there is some value in it.
You have a book that you wrote some years ago as well to help people to understand. Vedic astrology, and if they were at all interested, certainly contact you through your website. Tell us about. Yes, there it is, right
Yeah,
there.
that's my book. This was written almost 30 years now. I mean, 20,
Wow,
25,
wow.
20. Yeah. And since then, I'm evolved as a human being, and I have, more insight about astrology. But this is really the basic book. It's
Hmm.
the fundamentals. It's just as a good starting point for Vedic astrology. Someone who wants to learn Vedic astrology, it's a great starting point. And then I offer courses, 2 or 3 times a year, uh, and and I teach astrology. Um, and so it's a very vast subject, and it's the more you do it, the more you want to do. It depends upon one's interest.
Mm.
Uh, yeah.
Jagdish Maheshri is my guest, Ph.D. Yeah, it's in chemistry, chemical engineering, but I'm curious as to if you've ever made the connection between your engineering degree, your PhD in chemical engineering, and how that, even if it's metaphorically, relates to where you are today. Because my personal belief is there is no wasted time. Everything we do, even, I mean, I've had jobs that had nothing to do with
Right.
broadcasting,
Um,
and I was able to bring knowledge from those supposedly unrelated jobs to what I do today.
yeah, it's a discipline. It's a, the, when I did the PhD in chemical engineering, that discipline, how to go about doing research, that discipline tremendously helped me in pursuing my interest in astrology. It's a my the way I do it is that's why I call myself contemporary astrologer. It's different than the traditional.
Mm.
It's not very different, but it's a different,
It's
and
different enough.
it's based on my research.
Yeah.
So yeah, like Uranus, modern planets is all my research, the way I see them. You may not find that exact things anywhere. And so it's like I say, it's my research. Based on my research, this is how I view it. And so it's that discipline helped me. So and I totally concur with you that whatever we learn in life, it doesn't go waste. Whatever we do, it never goes waste. It's a part of our journey. And it's needed to go where we want to go.
Mm. I am very intrigued by the aspect of astrology, both Western and Eastern, more so with Eastern because of the exposure I've had to it over the, oh my goodness, it's got to be 20 or more years, starting with, of course, David Hawthorne, and then, of course, you coming into the picture. And I've enjoyed both of you and the insights that you offer. What again, once again, when you're talking about someone wanting to get a reading from you, they can go to your website, astroinsight.com, which will be linked to, and they can make an appointment with you to go through that process, or is there a form they fill out to give those three basic pieces of information, and then you go through that process and saying, okay, here's what it is. Or do you have a one-on-one consultation, or do you just provide the insight in a written
No,
explanation?
it's I don't provide in writing because I consider this is very sacred and confidential, number one. In writing, sometimes it goes by mistake by client, someone else's hand, you may not want to. It's a very personal thing. So I ask people to either record or take the notes
Mm-hmm.
because that's very important. And also the chart stays with me. So in future, they need to connect with me. They don't need to give me the date, time, and place again. And you can go to my website and fire me an email with the details, or there's a phone number. You can call me, leave the message if I'm not, answering the call,
Mm-hmm.
and or text me on the same number. And so there are many ways they can connect me.
Right. I know that I connected with you. I think it was through LinkedIn again this
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Even though I have your email address and all of that, I saw you up there, and I was looking, going, I haven't talked with this gentleman in a
Yeah.
long time. I need to connect with this man and
Yeah.
have him on the program, especially considering the fact that we have the opportunity to expand. The program for the time being has been expanded. We now have what is it, 9 broadcasts throughout the 7 days. It's interesting. The only day that we're not on is Saturday, but that's okay. Because we're on the podcast and videocast 24/7, 365.
Wow.
When
I'm so impressed.
you can listen to it anyway, anytime you want. And I don't know how long the additional 5 days will last, but all I know is we're going to take advantage of it, share information with our listeners and viewers who are looking at the YouTube channel, and say, hey, consider this. This is part of what we talk about when we talk about choices and knowledge of those choices. Maybe this is the first time you, the listener or viewer, have heard of Vedic astrology. And it is different than Western. It's funny, we could call it Eastern astrology, but I have a funny feeling there are other forms of astrology that come from the East as well. I'm not 100% certain about that,
Yeah.
but nonetheless, this is Vedic astrology. If did you have a specific teacher to guide you through the knowledge that you've gathered as a Vedic astrologer?
It's funny you asked me this question. Well, the way I started was I was not really a fan of astrology. So when I went to my first lecture in 1966, 65, 66, I don't remember exact, I wasn't really interested in learning astrology or, even slightest interest in it. I was dragged by, my uncle, and I just, okay, I'll go with you. But then when whatever he said at the time I felt, that he was playing on people's emotions and making money.
Mm,
And I said, this needs to be stopped. And so, but in order to stop that, I have to prove that this is all, it's bogus, so to speak. But in order to do that, I have to learn astrology, what it is. I cannot just do that. But it's a long story, but making it short, I could disprove a lot of things, but at the same time, I saw tremendous value in it.
mm,
And one thing I observed at the time that this was back in India, that was in the hands of those who have no knowledge of science or discipline of science. They will, they will apply the rule what it book says, and it was not a wonder that they couldn't get anywhere
yeah.
because they were not questioning it. And
Hmm.
it's through questioning I learned a lot. And then next, my journey started. Even though I was chemical engineer and I wasn't doing astrology every day, but it was always back in my mind, and I would try to look at the planets almost every day, where they are and how it relates to my chart. So it's my personal journey,
Mm.
and that's
Did
how I started.
did you ever do a chart for that period of time, just prior to, and then after you began your investigation, we'll call it,
Yeah,
that showed you, oh, this is part of, I don't know, because you talked about two elements, certainly
yeah,
destiny, and
and
then
therefore,
our own personal choices aspect
right,
of the chart.
right. So have I?
Did you ever do a chart for that period of time that showed you,
Yeah.
oh,
Well,
I'm doing exactly what my chart is saying I'm doing,
yeah.
kind of
Well,
thing.
that happened in late after 75, Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely not in 100% cast and concrete way,
Right.
but the flow was the way I thought it was. Yeah. And the details might be a bit different, but the skeleton was the same.
Right.
Yeah. And
That's
so
fact. Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
that gave me a lot of confidence. It's like, you feel, and then, and when I compared through astrology, then I understood, and astrology became a way of life for me, because it's all there, and it's a way of life. And then I thought, this is the time. If I can help myself, why can't I help others?
Yeah.
And that's when, I started doing the readings for others. But first 10, I have to be convinced myself. Until I'm not going to touch it. And so, to answer your question, I don't have a guru per se. It's all self-taught. It's all self-taught, or my own experience, life experiences, and then you relate. And so that's what it is. That doesn't mean I don't listen to the people who have tremendous knowledge. Absolutely, I listen to them. I read their, but it's mostly self-taught.
That's one of the things that I have acknowledged on this program. I would not be where I am right now, specifically talking with you about this subject, if it hadn't been for the thousands of people in my life who have been there throughout my 63 years. I mean, it's just an amazing thing, and I think that we all acknowledge that as well. We at least we should acknowledge that.
Yes.
We're also going to acknowledge the title of his book. It's All in Timing. That's the title of the book. That is available through your website, correct?
Yes.
And we certainly encourage people to go to astroinsight.com. That's astroinsight.com. We will be linked to that website so that you folks can find out more about the work that Jagdish is doing here. And we certainly are very grateful for the time that he has given us here on the program. Tell me your story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and Jagdish, I'm always fascinated by the information that you provide. And I think I was sort of alluding to a little bit ago, you did a chart for me, like I say, about 10 years ago. I think that sounds about right. I'd have to pull the file up, and I was listening to it maybe a few months ago. And I wasn't, and because of the fact that it was probably, like you said, between 12 and 18 months of a period of time, I was really struggling to remember what was going on in those years. So it wasn't like, oh, he was dead on that one. Oh, he was wrong. It's like, I don't know, because it was so long ago.
Yeah.
When you prepare someone's chart for them, is there now you say that people can ask specific questions that you can offer guidance in regards to their chart?
Exactly.
But not predictions as to this is what you're going to do, that's what you're going to do.
Well, predictions, when I say prediction is a strong, I provide insight. So I give the windows of time. Okay, this is the period. Probability of this happening is much better than other times. So if I wanted to put effort, so my reward to effort ratio is much better in that favorable period as opposed to other period. And now sometimes it stands out. No, it's going to happen. Then I'm going to tell the person, yes. But most of the time it's probability based. And it happens, because people won't be coming back. I know that. It's just like, but I always tell myself, Jagdish, you're not God. Okay? And you're going to make mistakes, and that's fine. It's okay. Do the best you can. And that's how I do it.
Yeah. Does your intuition play any role whatsoever in the generation of someone's chart?
I have to say yes. But being a skeptical, the scientific, being the skeptical, I wouldn't vouch for it. That's the different part. It's a very different thing. But I know that when I do the readings for people, a lot of times, and this lately is happening for last several years now, 4 or 5 years, that I don't even know what I was talking about. It just flows through the mind. Like, really, I disappear. Jagdish is gone, and I don't know who he's talking about.
Do you feel that in those times that you are, to use the phrase that has been coined, channeling that information from the divine, shall we say, that kind
I
of
don't
thing?
know about that. I
Okay.
can't. I don't know for sure. No, I
Okay.
don't know. And my basis is I still prepare chart based on my knowledge, my
Hmm.
mind, intelligence, and everything. But then when I talk to the person, I still have that. That's how I start. But there are certain things I say which I didn't prepare for it. It happened. It
Mm.
happened.
But
And
it's
so that's where I going back to that thing I was talking about clarity.
Mhm.
Once you have a clarity, you don't have to worry about outcome. It happens.
So that's when you can go back to the chart and it sort of confirms what you have said
Right.
for this individual. And folks, astrology never solves your problems, according to Jagdish. It's you who solves them, but you can benefit from astrology when you consider it as a means of personal guidance, a source of second opinion, or, as we've just been talking about, a way of confirming things that you already have some idea about. And we encourage you to go to Jagdish's website. It is astroinsight.com to find out more about the work that he is doing. I would highly recommend it. I've benefited even from my other friend David Hawthorne's astrological readings. That actually, I think I even have one from him that goes back 8 or 10 years, and so maybe I think I may solicit you to maybe give me an update. We'll talk about that after the program here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, and it has been a pleasure to have you, Jagdish, with us here on the program to talk about Vedic astrology and giving people insights, especially considering your website, Astro Insights, Insight, singular, astroinsight.com. And I really do appreciate the time that you've given us. I know that your book, It's All in Timing, that I have a copy of myself. By the way, is that available? I have a funny feeling it's probably not available in Audible because there are some diagrams in there that
Right.
you can't really describe. I mean, yeah, I worked for a radio reading service that would read the comics and describe what was going on in each frame, but it's a little different than sharing with someone, okay, here's what a chart looks like, and trying to describe all of the triangles and the geometric forms and so forth. But tell us, what forms is your book available in?
It's a big book form. It's not audio or Kindle or anything. It's
Just
just
hard copy.
hard copy
Okay.
at this
Well,
level.
well, we encourage people to get a copy of It's All in Timing. We encourage you to do that. Jagdish, it's been so long since you've been on the program that I'm going to ask you those three questions, which, by the way, since the last time you've been on the program, they've changed, as they would. We are trying to evolve and move forward and try to ask more profound and interesting questions to get more profound and interesting answers. But before I ask those questions of you, I want to thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story. New paradigms for a new world where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. And we are here on Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m. right here on this station. And we stream at those times, stream live at those times at richarddugan.com. We podcast at SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, Blueberry, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and many other locations. We also hope that you will go to our YouTube channel where you can watch these conversations. It kind of gives you an opportunity to, maybe not completely, but in a manner of speaking, get to know our guests. And we certainly hope that you will do that. Subscribe if you would. Click notification definitely so that when a new conversation is posted, you'll be notified. We ask that if you can support our work financially, we would be so gratefully appreciative. Our PayPal account, it's there for your security as well as the email address you'll want to input is richard@richarddugan.com. And then we ask during this decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, that you spend time going within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place where, after looking at your chart from Jagdish, you go in and you say, yeah, he's right on. Your information is accurate. He's confirmed what you already know. We hope that you will do that, or just spend some time quietly, just being peaceful and calm. And with all of that, we've moved to those three final questions as we also move into the new year here shortly. The first of the three questions has to do with you and who is Jagdish C. Maheshri?
I wish I knew who he is. It's a journey. I'm still discovering myself. I'm trying to find out who I am. I would like to think that whoever he is, he knows tomorrow, he knows a little bit more than what he knows today about himself.
Hmm. What gets you up in the morning?
It's I have to say, it's a passion. It's a passion. When I get up in the morning, just before I get out of my bed, I feel like I'm in 32, 33 years old. So that tells me that I'm not finished. I got to do more.
And finally, what was your best day?
To me, every day is my best day. To me, when I go to bed, I die. When I get up, I born. Every day is one life.
Well, Jagdish Maheshri, thank you so much for being with us again. We will have you back again in 2024. Maybe we'll do a little introspection on my part. Maybe have you share with us some insights into my Vedic astrology chart.
It's my pleasure. It's always my great pleasure to be on your show. And I'm profoundly thankful for giving me the opportunity to be on your show, and hope to see us connected all the time.
Absolutely, absolutely. I know you've got a journey coming up in early 2024, and I hope that we are able to connect and maybe even do an in-person interview that folks will be able to participate in some fashion. So I look forward to that.
Thank you.
And I thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World, where we are giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. Until our next broadcast, podcast, videocast, love to Lal. Jeanette, I am still listening. Dad, continue to be happy because I am. Smokey, I'll see you on the other side. And to my dear friend Zorro, aho, aho.